Hey, what's up, Improvement Warrior? Jason Yun back with you again. Welcome back to Improvement Warrior Podcast. This is going to be episode number 75. If you are new to the Improvement Warrior Podcast, we are a podcast that talks about alternative stuff. Circadian biology, circadian rhythm, circadian health, circadian fitness, the clocks in us, mitochondria. We still talk about fitness, we still talk about nutrition, but that is not the main driver. It needs to be done circadianly. So it needs to be in tune with the rhythm of light and dark. Again, if you are new here, get on the newsletter. That's where I send everything out, improvementwarriorfitness.com/NL. So this podcast is it's the last one that I made, Circadian Biology Premium Webinar number 4. So this was the longest one. This is light, water, magnetism. So obviously there's a lot to encompass there. I think it was 3 hours, 50 minutes. So I got about an hour and 55 minutes of this. So it's half of the premium webinar that goes up on the podcast. But the full premium is up on Patreon, improvementwarriorfitness.com/Patreon. That's where all the premium webinars will go, or they will go to Improvement Warrior University Premium. So improvementwarriorfitness.com/IWU. That's where I post all my courses. All the stuff goes up there. All my previous posts and whatnot, organized into simple categories so you can pick and choose what you need to learn or implement in that moment for you. So share this one out to anybody that you feel needs to hear it. And what's going on right now, I am in the middle of a Carrie Bennett, who is a fellow mitochondriac, quantum health practitioner, circadian biology practitioner. I'm involved in her bundle, and it is, I think, 55 other professionals just like me have put together a bundle. And it's 99% off. It's over 67 courses and over $6,400 worth of stuff for just $50. So you go to improvementwarriorfitness.com/health bundle. You can also DM me bundle on Instagram or Facebook or any social media, and I will send you that link. Sale ends May 23rd. It is May 17th, so I'm trying to get this up as soon as possible. But once the sale is over, this bundle is gone. This is good stuff. I've been involved in. I've purchased bundles before, and it's basically just crap thrown on a wall. Basically not their best stuff and whatnot. So I have 2 courses in there. So my Circadian Badass course is in there, and also my Healthier Planning course is in there as well. So those 2 courses alone would cover it. So check it out again, improvementwarriorfitness.com/health bundle, and share it out if you want to help me out. But otherwise, always looking for the 5-star reviews. Okay, try to get this podcast out to as many people as you can. Again, I will bribe you if you do leave a review on Spotify or Apple. Send me the screenshot, and I will and send me the screenshot and let me know: do you want my premium dopamine webinar, DHA webinar, or do you want my keto recipe book? And I will send that over to you ASAP. But otherwise, that is it for this intro. This is a loaded one, even the hour 55. I mean, there's a lot of information in there, so you will get a shit ton, as Jack always says, of information. So you might have to go through this several times to get all the information. But otherwise, enjoy the podcast. Go to the sponsors spread out throughout the podcast, and I will talk to you later. Till then, have a great day. Stay strong, stay positive. Be the improvement warrior. Hey, what's up, Improvement Warrior? Jason Yun, back with you again. Welcome to the next Improvement Warrior University Premium Webinar. This is Circadian Biology, Part 4, the 3-legged stool of nature, light, water, magnetism. Technical difficulties at first, so I'm recording this on Camtasia rather than Zoom. So let's just get right into it, because this is a big, long webinar. I think there's 93 slides. But let's get into it. First, Disease. Okay? So we're going through some major epidemics right now in terms of disease. And yeah, if you've probably heard me say it before, we are in the 6th extinction event right now. And if you have not read the book by Elizabeth Colbert, not sure how it's pronounced, but it's a very good book, and she talks about how we are currently in the 6th extinction event. Okay? But all disease is tied to the inability to tell circadian time correctly. Okay? So remember, we are in circadian biology part 4, so you should have seen the other 3 parts because everything ties together and everything compounds on what you've learned in previous Improvement Warrior University webinars. Okay, but circadian rhythm is our most important aspect of health. Everything in our body is dictated by a circadian clock. Now, 87% of all Americans now, as of 2024, March 2024, have at least one risk factor for metabolic syndrome. There's 5 aspects of metabolic syndrome, and if you have 3, you're considered to have full-blown metabolic syndrome. If you don't know what it is, just look it up, or what the symptoms are. So an organism senses light from the sun, and that gives you your ability to control a perfect circadian rhythm without the need for DNA control. Your DNA only codes for proteins, and your mitochondria sends signals to your DNA to change those proteins. That is epigenetics. Epigenetics always trumps genetics. Okay? And caveat, when the organism senses the light on their naked eyes and naked skin, so you can't have contacts, you can't have sunglasses, you can't have eyeglasses,
2:45,
and you want to be as naked as possible, okay? Because otherwise, it can't tell time correctly. Your master circadian clock is the suprachiasmatic nucleus located right behind your retina, and that sends the signals directly to your brain, which sends the signals to all of the clocks in your body. Okay, so as naked as possible. I did do a sunscreen will block the organism's ability to sense light, and sunglasses will also do that. So I did 2 unknown death causer podcasts. Sunglasses was episode number 31, and sunscreen was number 36. And that's Improvement Warrior Podcast if you are not subscribed, which you should be. Okay. Now, epigenetic signals control how genetics get expressed by the frequency of light. So epigenetics basically tells our system whether to turn on or keep off certain genes. And those genes will express whether you stay healthy or whether you get a disease. A meme here: the sun talks to water, water talks to your proteins talk to your DNA to tell it what to do. Your environment dictates which genes get turned on or off. It isn't just a story about sun. Optimal health is a bunch of things done right. Disease is a bunch of things done wrong. So environment, I always talk about environment. Different environments, so if you're indoors all day, that's an environment. If you're outdoors all day, that's an environment. Put your phone on your head, environment. Okay, put your phone on your pocket, not on airplane mode, that's an environment. Okay, healthy environments, grounding all the time, cold showers, cold baths, okay, eating DHA. These are all environments that you put yourself into. Being around negative people or being around positive people. These are environments. Your environment will dictate your epigenetics. So choose your environments wisely. The sun's photon quantum effect in the cytoplasm. Everything in a cell, except for your nucleus, affects the chemical bond to water. That changes the photon energy to a chemical message that is encoded for a single protein. The genetic DNA is our hardware, and the software that controls it is light, water, and magnetism, which we're going to break down each component here throughout this webinar. Sunlight carries information and also energy. Okay? That should say the former is more important. So the information is more important than the energy, because if you can't get the information, you're not going to get the energy. And I think it was as of 2012, and it should still be the same, but the number one reason people go to the doctor is because of fatigue. Fatigue is a lack of energy. Okay? Pretty much all diseases are a lack of energy. But it starts with the information. If we cannot deliver the information, you're wearing sunglasses, you're wearing sun cosmetics or anything like that, or you're constantly indoors under fake light, you're going to get the wrong information, which is going to give you the wrong energy. Another meme here. Life exists and operates on a scale, on a quantum scale. There are approximately 100,000 biological reactions every single second in every single cell, which we have trillions of cells. Electromagnetic force controls the protons and electrons inside your cells. There are 8, 683, 317, 618, 811, 886, 495, 518, 194, 401, 280, 000, 000 different frequencies of light between 260 and 700 nanometers of light. Okay, so basically 8 to the, I think it's 31 or 34 power of different frequencies. So we are creatures of light. Each one of those frequencies does something different and controls the biological reactions inside of you. Okay, and those different frequencies are just between 260 and 700. The frequencies go up to 3100. Okay. All right, disease number 3, or slide disease 3. Light is going to vibrate and it's going to move differently in heavy water than in deuterium depleted water in the cell. So this creates the soliton signal. Okay, so soliton is like it's a different form of atom, like proton, electron, neutrino, that kind of stuff. What is the transformer of light? Coherent water in the cytoplasm. So coherent water is also known as EZ water, which is exclusion zone water. Okay, exclusion zone water is basically you build your battery via water. 99.7% of our molecules are water. Okay, and the bigger we can build the battery, the more we can exclude protons and electrons, the more your redox will improve, and the more your battery will improve, and the more information you can take on, and the more energy you will have. Herbert Froelich, the dominant biophysicist, predicted in the late 1960s that hydrated proteins and incident light is all that is needed to run the system. Run you, run a human being. Very smart man. It's why diseases like type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, dementia is running wild. These are not carbohydrate diseases, as many food gurus and doctors will tell you. Many people have said Alzheimer's disease is now type 3 diabetes. I used to be among that group until I learned the absolute truth. But blue light versus sunlight. Earth's magnetic field versus Tech's field. Nature loses when you are not in it. So you need to be in it to avoid these issues. Okay? Type 2 diabetes is basically a blue light disease. Okay? I talk about it all the time. There's logs. To start a fire, you need logs and you need kindling. Okay? The logs are going to be blue light and non-native EMF. Okay, and then the kindling is going to be like nutrition and all the other stuff, not working out, not moving, that kind of stuff. Okay, but it's just kindling. Okay, how the fire stays is the big logs. Once they catch on fire, then you're done. Another meme here: light is registered by the retina, and it sends the signal to your suprachiasmatic nucleus. Food electrons get processed by our gut, and those circadian signals get sent to our brain's mitochondria via the vagus nerve. Insulin doesn't work the same at low temperatures because of its quantum 3D molecular changes that occur in the cell. It is why a diabetic bear hibernates, and then they wake up, they're not diabetic anymore. Okay? A human diabetic eats carbs all day long, lives indoors, does not get in the sun, and that's why they stay diabetic and they get fatter and fatter, and their disease progresses, their pancreas gets worse, their ability to signal insulin gets worse, and eventually they need to have their arm or their foot cut off, okay, if they don't change. And sadly, there's many people who choose that route rather than choosing to reverse the problem. All right, disease number 4, non-native EMFs, magnetic fields. So Apple Watches, Fitbits, and the like provide a constant source of non-native EMF that basically kicks electrons out of the area, so which dehydrates you and your ability in that area to collect sunlight, which is why I always say never put your phone on your head. Okay? Basically, your arm, when you're wearing Apple Watches and stuff, is aging faster than the rest of your body. Water is a natural Faraday cage. Faraday cage is basically protection to lower the effect of tech devices. So 99.9% to 99.7% molecules inside of you are water. An even better Faraday cage is UV light. So UVA increases nitric oxide. UVB increases vitamin D in the skin. All autoimmune conditions are associated with low vitamin D and poor nitric oxide signaling. Ultimately, a sucky non-native EMF environment will be the cause of these issues. Okay? Improvement Warrior podcast number 15, I recorded the root cause of autoimmunity and autism. And it can pretty much be the root cause for most diseases as well. So give that a listen if you have not. Nitric oxide will vasodilate, so it's going to open up the skin to absorb more UV light. So nitric oxide is what helps bring the blood vessels up to the surface to collect the UV light, because UV light does not penetrate very deeply, unlike red light and unlike blue light. So yes, your body has built-in processes to absorb the spectrum of light that dermatologists want you to block the most with sunscreen. So who should you be listening to? Something that went through 4.5 billion years of evolution, or someone who went through medical school with the curriculum provided by the Rockefellers? Low dopamine people will pick the latter. So our red blood cells will absorb more UV in hemoglobin and porphyrins of our red blood cells. Red blood cells are filled with DHA as well, and they have no mitochondria. Sulfated cholesterol makes sulfated vitamin D in the presence of UV light. And it is also nature's natural calcium channel blocker. No prescription needed. Okay, so if you know somebody on a calcium channel blocker, have them listen to this webinar and get them in the sun. All right. Nitric oxide will vasodilate the skin to absorb more UV light. Oh, I already read that. or I put it in there twice. So that's super important to remember. Nitric oxide will vasodilate the skin to help you absorb more UV light. Also, when your skin is cooled, you will absorb more UV light, and you'll make more nitric oxide as well if you're outside. So, where are we? Man-made EMF is the ultimate calcium releaser, which kicks electrons out, and that dehydrates you, which causes your nitric oxide signaling to go away. And so does your ability to collect UV light in your red blood cells, and your red blood cells eventually swim all over your body due to your circulatory system. If you have an issue raising your vitamin D, you need to go back and read these 2 slides until you get it, or until whoever is not able to raise their vitamin D gets it. So losing the ability to collect light also turns off your ability to make electrons spin inside of you. Okay? And that is a loss of magnetism. Okay? The higher your magnetism, the faster the spin, the more information you can collect, the more energy you can collect. And where you live also will do this as well. So if you live on the 4th floor, or if you live in New York City or downtown Chicago, Boston, Austin, Denver, Los Angeles, okay, any major big city, or you live next to an airport, or to a military base, or to a cell tower, or to power lines, or you are one of those people who have the smart meters. You're like in an apartment and you have like 15 smart meters right outside your apartment. That's time to move. Okay? Man-made EMF is the ultimate. Okay, I put this in there twice. All right. Okay, so loss of magnetism is what happens when you lose the ability to make electrons spin inside of you. When you lose magnetism, your mitochondria also loses the ability to make free radicals properly. So free radicals are not all bad. They are used for signaling and other things that happen inside the body. Okay, and if certain signaling certain signaling cannot happen, cells can't talk to each other, you get inflammation, you get cellular chaos. Okay? And it's not just the wrist stuff, it's not just the Apple Watches, the Fitbits, and that kind of stuff. Any device you put anywhere on your body, these same things are going to happen. Okay? AirPods, phone on the head, all that stuff. All right, another meme here. So this house is a real house. I took this picture. If you're just listening, it's a house, and in their backyard, basically they have a backyard, and then behind their backyard is a cell tower. Okay? Bad thinking takes you out faster. Once you understand the why of changing your environment, then the how becomes a whole hell of a lot easier. Your zip code is more important than your genetic code. Okay? I'll say that again. Your zip code is more important than your genetic code. So I just listed a bunch of cities in the United States, but you've got London, you've got, all of UK. Other major cities around the world. I'm drawing blanks on the cities' names. But Russia is, just because there's not a lot of sun, but their EMF footprint is a hell of a lot better than a lot of places. So I'm recording the Unknown Death Causers number 3 right now, and Russia set their limits at 10 microwatts per centimeter squared, and the United States started with like 100,000, but they realized that was killing people, so then they moved down to 10,000. That only lasted a few weeks, then they moved down to 1,000. Okay, but that's still 100 times worse than us. Okay. All right, oxygen. Oxygen levels on Earth 250 million years ago was 35%. In 1850, it was 22%, and today it is approximately 19%. And you've got less in more developed places, so obviously big cities and stuff. Oxygen required to be a healthy human, 19.5%. Okay? Is it any wonder why we're going through these disease epidemics? It's even more dire for sea life. So our sea life is dying. Farmed seafood in our future. I always talk about getting wild-caught seafood if possible, but I'm afraid eventually that is going to be, if things keep going the way they are, that's not going to be possible. So there's going to have to be like good farms. So there's difference between like a grass-fed farm or for grass-fed meat and stuff versus McDonald's factory farm where they just send all their cows for slaughter and making all the Big Macs and stuff. Okay, but there are, in Australia, I know there's some good farms out there because basically all their seafood is dying or is dead. There's no life in the seas over there, which we'll get into about the oceans and whatnot. Okay, but as of now, try and get as much of your food as possible wild caught. I know Dr. Cruz says even farm raised fish and seafood is better than grass-fed meat, and that is because of the DHA. That is how important DHA is. Okay, I did the Epipaleo webinar part 1, and that's free, so you can watch that on YouTube or in the Improvement Warrior University group on Facebook. And then I did part 2, which is all about DHA. And I am currently, I'm currently stacking the information to make part 2 DHA. That's how important it is. Okay. All right, so a little information about the sun here. The sun is a yellow dwarf star. Its scientific designation is a G as in God and V as in Victor star, a GV star. The surface temp of the sun is between 5,300 to 6,000 Kelvin, which is approximately 10,000 Fahrenheit and 5,500 Celsius. At its core, it can go up to 27 million degrees Fahrenheit, which is 15 million Celsius. The sun fuses hydrogen into helium to make light, and it lasts about 10 billion years. So ours is about 4.5 billion years, so it's a middle-aged sun. Okay, so it's about 40 to 60 years old. It is a population 1 group of stars, and these stars contain heavier elements. It's also a pop 3 stars. Pop 3 stars only contain hydrogen and helium, and they explode into a supernova. And they fuse the lighter elements into heavier and heavier ones. So our sun is a collection of these exploding stars. Okay. Another meme here. It is said that the amount of potential energy coming from the sun in one day is equivalent to the same amount of oil going over Niagara Falls for 220 years. One day. Sun power, baby. Get in it. As the sun ages, it is constantly burning hydrogen. And this leaves helium ashes that are more dense than hydrogen, and that raises pressure, so the sun runs hotter. So different spectrums, different electric fields, different magnetic fields are delivered to the Earth. So as the sun ages, it gets brighter. Bright light is needed for the non-linear aspects of light. Okay, so there are linear aspects and there are non-linear aspects. So if you don't know the difference, linear is basically if you have a hill and the hill is just constantly going up at the same angle at the same time. Non-linear is basically you have a hill, it's going up about 10 yards, and then it just goes straight up. And then you have to basically do like mountain climbing to go up. Okay? And it just goes up, down, all around, but it just gives you complete and utter benefits all around. Now, there are three kingdoms of life: bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes. The first two hate UV light. And for approximately 4 billion years, those two, bacteria and archaea, was the only life forms on Earth. Until about 600 to 650 million years ago, we had the Cambrian explosion. What happened then was the sun increased its UV light production by about 10%, which gave rise to the first complex life, and it evolved ever since then into more and more complex life until we as humans got here. Okay? Bacteria and archaea can only use the linear aspects of light. We can use both. And these variations are built into our proteins, so DNA and our junk DNA. Okay. What also appeared, let me make sure I don't put it in this one. Okay. What also appeared in the Cambrian explosion for the first time, or in the proper amounts was needed for life, was DHA and oxygen. Okay. So DHA, oxygen, UV light was the stimulus needed to create complex life. And DHA has never been replaced since. No lipid in us has that track record. Another meme here on junk DNA. Just 3% of human DNA has instructions for building cells and tissues. The other 97% is called junk. The junk is how evolution allowed us to quickly adapt to our environment. So it is our epigenetic toolbox. So whenever we get hit with some new problem, we find a new tool in our toolbox, and we adapt, and we move, and we get stronger because of it. Okay. These variations are why DNA, bacteria and archaea do not have DNA, only codes for proteins, and they operate in the UV range. So DNA, I think, fluoresces at, I forget the actual number, but it's in the UV range. So, yeah. Think of proteins as large hordes of electrons and protons that generate an electric field. So think of a school of fish, and the leader, the direction is going towards the sunlight. Proteins all have side chains that constantly repeat the positive and negative charges, and this is magnetically stored by your DNA code in the primary and secondary protein structure. We'll talk about the protein structure here in a little bit. Proteins will change their electric and magnetic fields by polarizing sunlight that comes in. So obviously this will change seasonally unless you're at 0 to 20 degrees latitude. So that would be you're at the equator, or you're somewhere in the tropics or subtropical areas of the Earth. But most people don't live there, they live outside of that. Okay. When sunlight comes into us, it is unpolarized. Then when it gets in us via our skin and eyes, our cells and mitochondria polarize it. Okay? So when you wear sunglasses, I'm not sure about contacts. I'm pretty sure glasses will do the same thing. They will polarize the light before it gets in. So that will cause a big issue for our proteins. okay, because you're receiving the wrong kind of light. All right, amino acid side chains are light's antennas. Our mitochondria takes sun rays, photons, to develop the oscillations to condition our EZ water to electronically control the biochemical substrates in a cell. So what grows EZ? So red light is what starts the EZ. UV light helps to grow the exclusion zone of water. And this will allow the amino acids at the protein bends to make precise changes in our tissues to allow life to work on a quantum scale. Or it will allow it to fall apart if you allow too much fake light and too much non-native EMF or electro pollution into you. All right, the proteins in you. So 4 levels of structure for the proteins. You have primary. These are held together by covalent bonds and made during protein biosynthesis. Secondary is local substructures on the polypeptide backbone chain. Tertiary, 3D structure, monomeric and multimeric protein molecules. Sheets are folded in a compact structure. And then last, quaternary, you have a 3D structure of a multi-subunit protein and how they fit together. The first 2 are the linear aspects of light, and the second 2 use non-linear aspects of light. Okay? So ATP is important here. Most people think of ATP as the energy substrate in the body, but ATP doesn't actually make energy. ATP's main thing is opening up the water binding sites on proteins so that water can bind to it. And then when you're in the sun and when you're in the right environment,
3:15,
your exclusion zone will grow, and that will improve your battery, improve your proteins, improve your collagen, improve you. Okay? All right, oxygen, part 2. When the seawater temperatures rise for any environmental reason, oxygen diffuses out of it. Same thing happens in your tissues. Oxygen drops in the ocean, so does iron levels. If iron falls in you, so does your tissue oxygenate. If iron falls in you, so does your tissue's ability to oxygenate. Okay, can't say that word. Iron was covered big time in my Autism and Autoimmunity podcast, which is episode 15. Okay, so a little bit about iron.
I have gotten off so many supplements since finding Dr. Cruz in his work in 2018. It's ridiculous. But one that I still take and recommend is magnesium. The big thing with magnesium is that different types of magnesium are uptaken by different parts of the body and organs. So there is a variant with people's responses depending on what they need magnesium for and how deficient they are to begin with. Magnesium deficiency is just as big, if not bigger, than vitamin D deficiency. And a big reason why is magnesium is needed for the conversion step in vitamin D. So what they did at BioOptimizers and Magnesium Breakthrough is they combined the top 7 forms of magnesium in one capsule. Magnesium is a downregulator for the nervous system to relax and leave us from that flight or fight world of stress that is especially caused by blue light and electro pollution that we are all affected by, no matter how much we biohack. It is also critical for vasodilation, increased blood flow. Any pain or problems in certain tissues, it's because not enough oxygen is getting there. Remember, all disease and ultimately death is a state of hypoxia, or lack of oxygen. The goal of electron chain transport is to move the electrons through cytochromes and reduce to oxygen. It's also super important for sleep and, again, for vitamin D production. Overall, there are over 300 reactions that magnesium is directly and indirectly responsible for. I used to usually just take one form of magnesium for a month and then switch to another form, but taking this is so much better. You can check it out at improvementwarriorfitness.com/magnesium for a 10% discount off your order. There's also a 100% money-back guarantee. If it is not the best magnesium supplement you have ever taken, return it for a full refund. But I know you're going to love it. I will say it again and again. Your phone is one of the biggest detriments to your health due to the non-native EMF and blue light coming from it. However, with One Tap Zap app from solar-powered Rusty, you can take care of blue light, Wi-Fi, flickering effect, all in one simple press of a button. One Tap Zap, you can disable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth completely. Get rid of your connection with the cellular tower, apply a blue light filter, reduce screen flickering, especially over low brightness, achieve sound sleep almost immediately, improve your mitochondrial health significantly, and maintain eye health with no more dry eyes, and numerous health benefits as well. One Tap Zap, you can check it out at improvementwarriorfitness.com/solar-powered. Unfortunately, it does not work for Android, just iPad, iPhone, and Macs at this time. But check it out, improvementwarriorfitness.com/solar-powered.
I've got a fantastic opportunity to enhance your meals and make a positive impact on the world with our new sponsor, Wild Pastures. We all know the importance of quality nutrition and the role it plays in our overall health journey. That's why I'm excited to introduce to you Wild Pastures. They provide 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, heritage pork, and wild-caught seafood, all raised on family-run farms in the United States with the highest ethical standards. We've been using them since December of 2024 and absolutely love it. We chose the pork and beef package. By choosing Wild Pastures, you're not only fueling your body with nutrient-rich, delicious proteins, but you're also supporting sustainable farming practices that benefit the environment and local communities. Imagine enjoying your meals knowing that you're making a difference. And here is the best part. As a listener of Improvement Warrior Podcast, you get an exclusive deal. Visit improvementwarriorfitness.com/wildpastures to receive 20% off for life and an additional $20 off your first order. It's a win-win for your health, taste buds, and the planet. So why wait? Make the switch to ethically raised quality meats today and elevate every single meal. Again, head on over to improvementwarriorfitness.com/wildpastures and take advantage of this amazing offer. Iron is essential for life. Don't go vegan. And if you are vegan, stop being vegan. Okay? If you know any vegan friends, have them watch this webinar and have them search on Facebook or Instagram #vegan with Okay? So the body, vegans who take iron supplements, the body knows the difference between true iron and fake iron. Okay? Iron carries oxygen to our cells, which is via hemoglobin. No iron, your immune system goes down, you become dazed, confused, you're cold all the time, lethargy, your metabolic rate drops, you have brain issues. Water bodies that lose iron turn clear blue, but sea life goes down. Green seas have more life. They also have more DHA, and it's usually colder waters. There is one exception, though, and that is in the Gulf of Mexico, because that is where the meteor that killed the dinosaurs is. So it's the Chicxulub crater, and the magnetic field there is basically the highest anywhere. So the seawater is blue, but there's also a lot of life there due to that issue. Green seas are usually colder as well. So think of like blue seas as like the Caribbean. Very beautiful to see, but not a whole lot of sea life. So you'll have more sea life in like the Arctic seas and whatnot. And it'll be higher DHA. Another meme here. Fundamental reason why red blood cells don't have a nuclei or mitochondria. Red blood cells naturally designed to have DHA-laden cell membranes to deliver both DHA and oxygen to tissues. They have to have less magnetic ability than the tissues delivering to, otherwise we hold on to the DHA and the oxygen forever. Okay. Another meme here. DHA is the foundation of healthy eating. Seafood should be your number one protein source. Health is the greatest wealth. Okay? So, if you are having issues getting seafood, so I'm dealing with a couple clients now who have issues. It just makes them sick. They can't stand the texture or the smell. But there are ways to get it in, and there are ways that we have to get it in. Otherwise, the number one source, the number one land source of DHA is lamb. And then you're also going to get it through eggs and grass-fed beef. But it's not going to be anything compared to seafood. You would have to eat a ton of eggs and beef to even equate to like 1 or 2 oysters. Oysters and shellfish are the number one source, followed by fish. The best fish are going to be the acronym SMASH. So you got sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, and herring. Okay. And another meme here. Your cytochromes are quantized to the environmental seasons. They change their function as the seasons change. The cytochromes are most important where electron tunneling occurs. For optimal tunneling, you must have DHA loaded in your cell membranes, including the mNOS inside your inner mitochondrial membrane. And one more meme. During sleep, cold stimulates melatonin release from the pineal gland. This happens only when our temperature drops. Melatonin increases our magnetic sense by making our mitochondria more magnetic, which spikes oxygen in our brain naturally. DHA is also replaced when temperature is lowered. Dark and cold make sleep better. Light, water, magnetism is nature's three-legged stool. So if you are having sleep problems, Improvement Warrior Podcast, Episode 7, I gave 36 sleep tips. So if you know somebody or have issues yourself, listen to that. Okay, iron part 2. I'm going to stop here and I'll come back and re-record. I need a sun break and a grounding break. And yeah. Iron it protects the marine life when it's in the oceans and what's in the seas from non-native EMF by absorbing the non-native EMF. Water is also the best Faraday cage. And also inside of you, when your vitamin D level is optimal vitamin D level, unsupplemented vitamin D level will be above 60. Okay, that is a Faraday cage for pretty much everything. Vitamin D ties intimately in with your innate and your adaptive immune system. So any kind of immune function is going to be hindered if you have a low vitamin D. Brain metabolism. Iron is important for, so it's a cofactor to enzymes that create the neurotransmitters. They're components of cytochromes for energy production as well. So the neurotransmitters you've probably heard of: dopamine, serotonin, GABA, drawing a blank. Adrenaline are the ones that are, can't think of them right now. But dopamine is the big one that controls the eyesight, or the dopamine along with melatonin controls the elongation of the eyeball. So if you get low dopamine, you get low melatonin. That's when blue light just destroys you and it elongates the eye even more. And that's when you get myopia, gets worse, and it gets worse. And in a few years or so, you have to keep increasing your prescription until you eventually get the worst eye disease like acute macular degeneration, cataracts, glaucoma, detached retinas, all the bad stuff. And when the eye goes, the brain goes, because that is intimately connected due to our retina and the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is the master circadian clock. Iron will react with oxygen as well to create neurotoxic free hydroxyl-free radicals that create membrane lipid peroxidation. Okay, so remember, PUFAs in your body. PUFA is a polyunsaturated fatty acid. They go boom in your body, and they will accumulate lipofuscin in neurons. So lipofuscin is one of the aging or wear and tear pigments found in the liver, kidney, heart muscle, retina, adrenals, nerve cells, ganglion cells, and more and more. Okay. So avoid seed oils as much as you can. So the seed oils are going to be soy, bean oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, which would be rapeseed oil, but the U.S. it's typically listed as canola oil. And I did a presentation in the group going over seed oils and why you want to avoid them. So improvementwarriorfitness.com/IWUFB in the replay webinar guide or the nutrition guide. You will find those. All right, iron 3.0. So energy can only be absorbed by our cells if the energy of the incident radiation exceeds a specific threshold value. And that is why native EMF, which is Earth's human resonance, Earth's magnetic field, is good for us, which beats at 7.83 hertz. And things like Wi-Fi are bad. Okay, remember 7.83 hertz, think of it as 7.83 cycles per second. Wi-Fi, the 2.4 gigahertz, is 2.4 billion cycles per second. And then you've got the 5.0 Wi-Fi, which is 5 billion cycles per second. And that is why it hurts us and destroys us. Iron reacts with oxygen. That will equal a bad environment. It's neurotoxic. It will create the neurotoxic free hydroxyl-free radicals that create that membrane lipid peroxidation. I already read this. It was in the other one. Just continuing on with it. Metals in bone or proteins will start absorbing more EMF while increasing temperature. A hydroxyl-free radical is the ion that results when photonic energies exceed the ionization of a neutral atom. Those energies will be absorbed and they will eject an electron from the atom. that leaves the atom electrically in an electrically charged state, and the ion may become highly chemically reactive in that state. That ion, again, is the hydroxyl-free radical. Hydroxyl radicals have been implicated in several neurological and autoimmune diseases. So they damage all types of macromolecules by energizing molecular structures to alter its structure and function. It can act on proteins, carbs, fats, nucleic acids, and amino acids coded for by DNA and RNA. Hydroxyls cannot be destroyed by any enzymatic reactions. And we already went over the lipofusion. All right, iron 4.0. Now, iron is stored in the ferritin protein that is present in higher concentrations in the basal ganglia. Excessive iron is associated with neurodegeneration, so you got Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's disease. Okay? I assume stroke would be the ultimate killer that would take you out. Iron is not present at birth, so the addition of it is part of normal aging. But excess can be deadly, and lack can be deadly. Okay? So again, iron is not present at birth. The addition of it is normal, part of aging. Again, vegan diets, vegetarian diets are going to be low in iron. So iron is very important to get into your diet. And the body, of course, knows the difference between a supplement and what is real. Okay? About 1 billion people are deficient in the entire world. 20% of women in the US are deficient, which has a vital link to autism. So I covered iron a lot in the autism, the root cause of autism and autoimmunity podcast, episode number 15 for the Improvement Warrior podcast, if you have not listened to that. Okay. Iron 5.0. Iron facilitates the conversion of T4 to T3, which is the active thyroid hormone in the body. Okay, so that is pretty important. Here's the meme that I share probably more than anything. So T3, which is the active form of the thyroid hormone, plus vitamin A, which is animal vitamin A, retinol, turns into LDL cholesterol, which eventually that gets converted into pregnenolone, and that gets converted into every sex steroid hormone. Okay, and that is stuff your doctor probably does not know, and this happens at sunrise. Okay, so that's why it is vital. Sunrise is what turns this process on. Okay, and then every sex steroid hormone gets turned off when UVA light comes out. So that is when it gets above 10 degrees of an angle. The app I recommend for that is either the Circadian app. That is a premium app. You have to have a subscription, I believe, or pay for it. But I just use Sun Position Demo, so it's just the free version. It will tell you minute by minute where the sun is on like a 2.2 or 3.8 point, like to the 10th decimal point. So never miss the sunrise, never miss UVA. Whoops, I skipped one. So iron 6.0. I did a post on iron deficiency, so improvementwarriorfitness.com, iron deficiency, if you want to read that. Okay. All right. Ocean is dying. So since 1950, about 90% of the sea's fish population has left. So oxygen is diffusing out. And I just did a post the other day. 90% of the American bumblebee has also gone extinct since 2000. Okay. So seawater temperature rises, it becomes hotter, And with hotter water, you have less electron density. Less density means the sun's photonic power cannot liberate the electrons and protons to make the maximum amount of energy possible. So electrons give chemicals their specific phenotype. Electron density goes down, life gets simplified, because not as much energy to split electrons from the water and create the exclusion zone or the coherent domain of water. Okay, so it cannot split the energy, so electrons on one side, protons on the other side. Remember, when life gets simplified, we came from simplified creatures. We stole the mitochondria from bacteria, but for billions and billions of years before the Cambrian explosion, 600 million years ago, there was just two kingdoms of life, bacteria and prokaryotes. Okay? So life's ability to survive goes down when the sea temperature goes up. Okay? That's why again, your 99.9% of your molecules are water, so you want to drink as cold water as possible. And I say that as I'm drinking my hot green tea here. But I just got out of my cold bath, so this is part of my warm-up process. But all the other time I'm drinking out of a very cold Arctic jug with ice filled up to the top. So I went over my water habit in Improvement Warrior podcast episode number 9. And you want to, obviously we want to get rid of the tap water, we want to get rid of the fluoride, the Brita, and whatever the other common filter is. It does not take out the fluoride. If you have a Kangen machine, like people will talk all kinds of, hey, Kangen is the best and all this stuff. That's nonsense. Kangen does not take out the fluoride and the lead and all the other stuff. They just have a simple charcoal filter, which will not filter out all the bad stuff. Okay. So nature does it best. I think spring water is the best because you're going to have the minerals in there. If you're doing RO water, you do have to remineralize the water in order to get the best water from that. And if you're doing RO water in your through your piping system, that's a bad idea because the RO water will corrode the pipes, and eventually the pipes will fail, and you'll have thousands of dollars in plumbing bills. Okay. All right, water chemistry. So chemical reactions, or chemical redox reactions, transfers energy in all life forms. So one substance becomes an electron donor and the other one an acceptor. So that is basically reductive potential math. Okay, the same as E equals mc squared. It can go one way, but it can also go the other way. All right. Main reducing element is NADPH, which is made via the PPP, the pentose phosphate pathway. Remember, you have 4 biochemical pathways: the PPP, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, aka the TCA cycle, and the urea cycle. So the electrons to power this reaction comes from the sun and not food. So that is why you do not want to be spending more time than you do indoors than you do out. Just one of them, obviously. All right, so when you came, here's a meme. When you came out of your mama, you were 80% water. That water goes down to approximately 60% towards your 6th or 7th or possibly 8th decades if you're doing everything right. As you age, you need more sunlight, not less, to offset the loss of water in your body. So light, water, magnetism is the three laws of nature. All right, water chemistry, part 2. So the sun splits water from H2O to form 2 hydrogens plus 2 electrons plus 2 oxygen molecules. These electrons get transferred to plant life and food via photosynthesis inside water molecules. 99.9% of molecules in a human are water. Okay. That will vary person to person, so sometimes it'll go down to 99.5%, just depending on if you are hydrated or dehydrated. We and all, so humans and all animals, move electrons from the food they eat to our mitochondria using water in our cells. So again, you need to be hydrated properly. The BUN creatinine ratio will tell you if you are hydrated, if your mitochondria is hydrated properly. We use proteins inside of us that are loaded with iron to help the process. Quantum, in that process will be quantum tunneling.
45.
Okay, so the last point there is very important for circadian nutrition. Remember, all foods break down 2 electrons and also protons, and these foods then they go through electron train transport to eventually reduce to oxygen, where the process starts back over, and then the electrons just get recycled and they keep going and going. Because remember, energy can never be destroyed or created. It's simply re-manifested or reprocessed or redistributed throughout. Okay. So, yeah. All right. Another meme here, which I did not center it. So, life is electrons and proteins, not genes. So when your cells lose the tensegrity of their collagen cytoskeleton, just so think of the tensile strength of them, they get larger. So, i.e., they lose electrons and they gain protons. Protons, it's incorrect there. Protons have 1,852 times the mass of an electron. Electrons impart a piezoelectric current present in collagen to limit a cell's size. Proteins associated with mass is deadly to a human being. And another meme here. Food gets turned into electrons and protons to go to the mitochondria to make 3 things: ATP, deuterium depleted water, and IR light. ATP unfolds the water binding sites on proteins. Deuterium depleted water, DDW, hydrates the proteins and things in a cell. IR light is absorbed by the DDW to make the exclusion zone of water, so it charge separates and creates a bigger battery, or it gets released as free heat and forms a liquid crystal structure to convey energy and information via the surrounding electrons and protons. All right. So your SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus, it is the master clock, master circadian clock. It only pays attention to light or dark signals, not to the codification of electrons from the food that you eat. Food is the way we use to deliver electrons and protons to our inner mitochondrial membrane to make the chemical change to ATP. And remember, ATP is not the energy source. ATP's main function is to open the water binding sites on proteins so the water can bind to it. Because if the water can't bind to it, you're dehydrated, then the process breaks down, and pretty much everything breaks down. And if it's not fixed, disease will set in for you. So these systems here are light transfers, sunlight transfers in the brain via the eye and suprachiasmatic nucleus. So light sets the photoperiod and also the vitamin A cycle in the human brain. So all diseases, okay, is a breakdown of the vitamin A melanopsin couple. Okay, so if your vitamin A and melanopsin get broken by blue light, non-native EMF, okay, then you're going to have issues. I think I have a slide here. Well, we got another meme here. So your SCN is the master circadian clock. It gets its info from the light you allow and then sends that signal all over your body. Melanopsin cells, which are the blue light antenna cells, are directly and indirectly connected to your SCN, which is why SCN is most sensitive to blue light. When the SCN gets reset with AM sun, so do your other clocks in the hypothalamus of the brain. Our liver and gut clocks reset via a combination of SCN signals and also the timing of the food we eat. The SCN is connected to our hunger center, so it actually tells the brain when to feel hunger. So this is why if you are leptin resistant, or if you don't want to become leptin resistant, seeing the sunrise is super important to set that circadian or suprachiasmatic nucleus and to have the sun hit the melanopsin cells in the eye and also the skin. Okay, and then after you see the sun, preferably within 30 to 45 minutes, you want to get your meal in, and that resets the gut clocks and the liver clocks in terms of hunger and whatnot. And that is also the time that you can eat the most. So breakfast should be the biggest meal of the day, and then they periodically get smaller, lunch and dinner, but there's never any snacks, ever. All right, skin, your skin's system. So this system is slower than the suprachiasmatic nucleus because the suprachiasmatic nucleus talks to the skin. Our skin collects sunlight to make vitamin D, which is UVB sun. You should have the app D-Minder, which will tell you when vitamin D comes out in your latitude, or if it's gone away for the winter or not. And it will also tell you how much vitamin D you're making per minute. Your gut collects sun's photons and electrons from seasonal food. Both neural circadian systems act together in a quantum fashion to start your DC electric current that starts in our brain and the CSF, the cerebral spinal fluid that surrounds the brain surface and then moves down our spinal nerves, above the peripheral nerves but below our myelin layers. Okay, so I think that's where collagen is also located, and I think that's like the cord that connects everything, because that's the number one protein in your body. PNF, the peripheral nervous, PNF, propel, I forget the term, I can't pronounce it. It controls motor control and sensation. All right, another meme here. You are designed to eat sunlight, eat in air quotes, just like plants and trees are via photosynthesis. Optimal health is not possible without it, so please stop starving yourself like a modern day zoo animal. And you also absorb more sunlight, more UV, more red light when you are grounded. All right, more on the skin system here. 70% of the myelin layer is fat. The building blocks to start building myelin maturation is found in human breast milk. Okay. Why not breastfeeding so if you're not breastfeeding or you're following a vegan agenda, feeding a child a vegan diet is child abuse. So and not breastfeeding and feeding them formula is not going to develop the best child. So if you are pregnant or you're planning on getting pregnant, you've got to do your research and you've got to understand that for the first 6 months, breast milk should be the only food that the child is getting. The brain of a child doesn't fully myelinate until approximately 25 to 28 years old, and they're finding it is becoming later, or it may never happen due to the non-native EMF, parents using their phones, iPads as digital babysitters, and whatnot. So food electrons are needed to help grow the baby's nervous system as well. Food electrons help develop growing nervous systems. Food electrons primarily affect peripheral molecular clocks in organs like your gut or your liver by using incretin hormone system. So electrons are stripped from the food and they're carried to the inner mitochondrial membrane. So your food gurus or your personal trainers are only going to talk about the macros, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and calories. And if they're good, they'll talk about, or if they're better than most, they'll talk about water. Okay, but that used to be me. It was always about calories, protein, carbohydrates, fat. How much are you taking in? You need to cut your carbs to lose the weight because carbs raise your insulin and you can't have that, and all that BS. And then it was all about lowering your calories under your BMR, which is BS as well. Okay, most people who are leptin resistant, they actually need to eat more. Okay, because 1,200, 1,400, 1,600, even 1,800 calories, even 2,000 calories for a woman, definitely for a man, is going to be too little, and you're not going to get enough electrons, not enough energy, not enough information to power the system that I've been laying out for you in this webinar. Okay, and if you want more nutrition help, hashtag nutrition with Yun or keto with Yun, and you can find pretty much everything that I've been talking about in terms of the nutrition and whatnot. Because I do harp on that aspect a lot, the macros and the calories, and how CECO, calories in, calories out, is always going to be a losing battle. So never go on a diet to lose weight. If you are leptin resistant, you need to follow the leptin reset, improvementwarriorfitness.com/leptin transformation. Okay, and I do have another leptin webinar planned, and there will probably be another one after that as well, because it is vital. It's the master hormone. If you don't get it right, because if you just talk to a personal trainer, you talk to your nutritionist, they're just going to focus on insulin. They're not going to, they probably will not even mention leptin to you. And if they do, they're going to mention, oh, it works with ghrelin. So it tells you when you're hungry and when you're not hungry, or when you're full. Okay, but if you've watched Leptin Part 1 and 2, you know that's complete and utter BS, and it's one of the reasons why we're getting fatter and we're getting sicker. All right, how does the gut play in? So certain gut bacteria is going to be linked to either obesity or thinness. Your gut bacteria has a photoelectric effect too. They make energy from it. So it is linked to circadian seasonal changes and the native EMF changes. Seasonal gut changes link to your brain via the paraventricular nucleus. Okay? So, meme here, real quick. So our gut flora determines if we get fat or not. Sugar and high fructose corn syrup destroy it worse than any food. I would say seed oils as well in there. Another meme here. Every organ in your gut has its own circadian clock that wires directly to the brain's pineal gland via the vagus nerve and the incretin hormones. The alpha wave in the brain is called the Schumann resonance. It controls the circadian signaling, and it's mitigated through biologic magnetic cells called cryptochromes. Human cryptochromes found in eyes wire directly to the SCN. If your alpha wave is off, we can't tell the signals of light and dark properly, so melatonin drops, so our gut gets disconnected from our brain. Okay, and if melatonin drops, dopamine also drops. The eye gets elongated and you get worse eye diseases and your brain gets worse as well. And another meme here. Simple life forms can handle protons better than complex. Protons developed on Earth when oxygen was not present, or not as present as it is. Humans developed when oxygen was present, and also when DHA became present, and also when UVA light shot up by about 10%. Protons are for expansion of gut bugs when oxygen is not present in the lumen of the intestines. Protons provide energy, information to help develop non-brain organs using the power of our gut bacteria as leverage. And final meme, I think this is the final one on this slide. A simplified gut flora can be caused by diets high in highly processed carbs and refined industrial seed oils as well as non-native EMF. The latter, non-native EMF, causes melanopsin and retinol dysfunction and also calcium efflux, which is when calcium escapes when it should not escape. When your gut species diversity is cut, bacterial toxins, lipopolysaccharides get released that cause leptin resistance, obesity, and a host of other diseases. Mothers will pass a simplified gut to the offspring, which is why it is important for mom to get healthy before having the baby. So we are dealing with a major fertility crisis in the US, but also in all major developed countries. Okay, so it is super important to get healthy, and it is also super important to mothers to never put your phone on your stomach if you are trying to get pregnant. Also around that bottom area, gentlemen as well. Okay, it's important to take care of the non-native EMF, fix the environment, then fix your diet. Okay, then fix your nutrition. Okay, but the most important is going to be the light, the blue light, making sure you're out in the sun, and then protecting yourself from the non-native EMF. So Apple Watches go away, putting the laptop on your lap goes away, putting the phone on your stomach goes away, putting the phone on your head goes away, because the brain talks to everything, and everything gets connected and whatnot. Okay, but also with gut species. So I know prescription drugs, just one round, 30 days, will cut the gut species or will eliminate certain gut species for up to 6 months. Okay, and sometimes they never come back due to the person's lifestyle and whatnot. Okay, so that is important to also know. So seed oils and eating that highly processed foods can destroy the gut bugs, and they never come back. And that's why people will get fat and they will stay fat. okay, because there's a gut flora that has a major impact on whether we're going to be sick, whether we're going to be obese, or whether we're going to be able to lose it or not. Okay, one more meme on this slide. One of the best biohacks you can do is expose your gut to the sun. The majority of people can count the number of times they have done this in the past year on one hand. I would need 73 hands to do it. So 73 hands is approximately 360. So it's a rare day that my gut does not see the sun. Also my balls, also my butt, my back, my heart, okay, all the areas. All right, I'm going to take a break, get outside, get some grounding, and I'll be back and we'll get on fast and slow circadian signals. All right, fast and slow circadian signals. The vagus nerve connects the fast and slow. So the fast is your brain, the slow is your gut. But it's not really slow, it's still moving at a quantum basis. Just slow compared to the brain. Also, it protects the blood-brain barrier, the gut barrier, the pneuma environmental barrier. So I'm not exactly sure what that is, but if it's a barrier inside your body, it's pretty important. It also is what connects your gut to your brain. The transverse mesocolon to the fourth ventricle brainstem is where those connect. And it's filled with cerebral spinal fluid, and it is covered with myelin. So this links to light, sunlight, and seasonal food growth, eating to yolk together. Okay. And remember, blue light breaks all these mechanisms. So obviously we want to change our lighting if we have not already. All right, another meme here. Life and health is not about the food that we eat. It is about maintaining and improving the cell architecture so your cells can signal to each other properly. Because if the cells can't signal, they can't talk to each other, they can't deliver the information, so they can't produce energy. And life is energy. You don't have energy, you're going to do stupid human tricks to find fake energy to get yourself through the day. Okay. Leptin. Leptin comes in, and it always does. It is the master hormone. The CSF, the cerebral spinal fluid, in that area doesn't have a blood-brain barrier. Okay, so if you are in the wrong environment, blue light, non-native EMF is sensed, then cellular chaos will ensue. Leptin counts the energy status in that area, so it's counting the area, the electrons in the hypothalamus, to know what it needs to do. Okay, this is why the brain and the gut are the easiest to unsync from each other and to unsync their clocks from each other. Alright. So seasonal carbs is the way, not whenever you feel like it. Now, if you eat carbs out of season, dopamine is going to lower, and also your prolactin hormone, due to the light needed to grow said carbohydrate. Okay? Carbs can only grow in season. And obviously I'm talking about vegetables and fruits, but processed carbohydrates obviously should not be a part of your regular routine, unless it's like a treat meal or treat day or birthday or something like that. okay, every once in a while. It is why melatonin is tied to the eye system of light and dark cycles. Okay? The right melatonin signal is linked to proper calcium and melanopsin signals. Calcium is used to signal to the pineal gland in the brain, and blue light and non-native EMF destroy all three mechanisms: the melatonin, the melanopsin, the calcium, the dopamine. I mean, there's more and more. It goes on and on. The thyroid system gets broke. The gut system gets broke. Everything gets broke. And seasonal eating will be based on your latitude. So if you have questions about that, you can't ask me. I only know where I live, what I need to do. We did have a very warm February, so things are starting to grow a little bit earlier. So I've got asparagus plants that are starting to grow, and it looks like they're sprouting pretty well. So normally it would be a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks later, that the sprouting would occur if we would have had a normal winter, but we didn't. Obviously, so you have to take those considerations into your latitude is going to play into effect when you can eat. The best thing to do is go online to the farmer website in your state and figure out what grows in your area at certain times. Okay. All right. Liquid sunshine. So water is basically liquid sunshine. Water can allow you to have huge energy transfers when your exclusion zone of water is charged up. So that means you need to be in the sun charging it up, because red light starts the exclusion zone, UV light expands it. Water is tied to oxygen. The more oxygen in the water, the more electrons. Electrons are needed to power your brain and all the other organs. Simple life and trees didn't evolve a brain. We developed fat storage because, unlike the tree, we can move around freely. More oxygen in the oceans equals more electrons, equals a bigger EZ, equals greener waters compared to bluer waters. And that equals more life in the seas. And colder waters means more oxygen, means more electrons, means more life. Okay? That is why cold thermogenesis is always a good thing, depending on your haplotype. If you're if you're darker skin, so if you're African from India, it might not work for you as well, but I always recommend giving it a go and trying it to see how you feel and see if it works for you. But yeah, CT is going to be big because CT increases your magnetism. So anytime you're cold, anytime you make your body, your surfaces cold, that is going to increase your magnetism, which is going to increase your electron spin, which is going to increase basically everything in you. It will increase your DC electric current because the electric field is 90 degrees to a magnetic field, and then vice versa. So that spin will help to increase the DC current, which will give you a bigger battery, increase your redox, increase pretty much everything. And that's why it's important to drink cold water as well. Alright, another meme here. It is said that the amount of potential energy coming from the sun in one day is equivalent to the same amount of oil going over Niagara Falls for 220 years. Just think about that. That's pretty amazing what the sun can do. Okay. All right, another meme here. Fat evolved on our body so we can move around and engage in other activities. Plants and trees don't have that luxury. If you are overfat, you are leptin resistant, and you cannot use or burn fat properly. And also, so the two extremes of leptin resistance is going to be morbidly obese, which I believe the definition is 200 pounds or more overweight. That person is severely leptin resistant. And then also on the other end, you have an anorexic who is also leptin resistant. Okay? And I would also venture to say that a bodybuilder on stage is leptin resistant because the leptin hormone cannot tell the energy status of the body due to the fact that they have been depriving themselves of certain foods, certain nutrients, certain sunlights, frequencies, and whatnot. So yeah, because how they get to that ripped competition on stage presence is they manipulate the macros, manipulate the hormones to get everything down to that kind of state, which we don't want to do. All right, energy is life. However, if we don't routinely connect back to nature, our circadian mechanism breaks down and disease ensues. So, this is how life transfers energy in us, through nature. It isn't based on your macronutrient profile or how much you can bench press or squat or how many push-ups you can do. Okay. And I might have mentioned it earlier, but we cannot burn fat unless we see the sunrise. The sunrise sets the circadian rhythm, which also sets off beta oxidation, which is fat burning for your mitochondria. So connect to nature. All right, so daylight equals DC, the DC electric current. Only blue and purple light from the sun has the power to generate, artificial blue light will also have the power, and UV light has the power to generate enough current to change the physics of an organism photoelectrically. Okay. Initially, in the AM, the sun provides a constant voltage for just a short period of time, and that means no light production in your cell's semiconductors initially. Okay. Remember, a semiconductor can create a current going forward or going backward. So melanin is a semiconductor in you. Bone is a semiconductor in you. And there's many, many more. The electrons will then migrate into the band gap of collagen, and they will drift into the applied DC current field that the sun provides. So this generation of the DC electric current, this generates a DC current, and it starts to emit heat, IR, as IR light. The heat begins to build the exclusion zone, and that changes the density of the band gap physics. And eventually the EZ gets bigger, your DC current gets bigger, your magnetic field or your magnetic sense gets bigger, everything gets bigger, and everything is able to transfer the proper information and the proper light and give you the proper energy. But this breaks down if it is blue light. Okay? So blue light has the power to generate enough current and change the physics of an organism photoelectrically. Okay? But the problem is it shrinks the EZ. Okay? It destroys the DC current. It destroys dopamine, melatonin in the eye, and that basically you have a domino effect of everything falling down. So then you get no energy, you get no information transfer, or not no, but it's severely retarded. Another meme here. Cortisol wakes us up by unzipping collagen, by removing the electrons from collagen. Then you see the sunrise on your eyes and skin. The sun's photons put the electrons back, and you start to re-zip the collagen back up. So cortisol is connected to NAD+. Fasting also increases it. NAD+ and the NADH ratio. It's good for many things with your epigenetics and regulation of your metabolism. Cortisol's ability to unzip electrons from collagen plays major roles in altering your epigenome to control your genes. Okay, so remember, it's not that you have bad genes, it's whether or not they get turned on or if they stay off. That is epigenetics 101. All right, daylight part 2, the DC current part 2. This is why collagen is the #1 protein in your body. And it's why DHA is always surrounded by water in the gray matter in the brain. So gray matter is where our mitochondrial density is. If there's no water present in your cerebral spinal fluid in the brain next to DHA, we would overheat. The higher your base temperature, the lower your metabolism is by 13%. So every 1 degree it goes up, your metabolism goes up by, it goes down by 13%. So if you have a 98.6 on average temperature, and then another person has a 97.6, that person's metabolism is 13% higher. Okay, so we don't want to be too cold, obviously, and we don't want to be running too hot. So 98.6 is supposed to be the average, but that's not where you want to be. We don't want to be average. Okay, we want to be a little bit under that for most of the time, and that's going to change seasonally as well. Okay, so here's a slide here with an accompanying YouTube video if you want to watch that. So just copy that link and post it in there. Sorry, I don't have a short link for it. But this is basically what sunlight does to the brain and the gray matter and the DHA and all that stuff, the CSF. So the CSF the cerebral spinal fluid acts as a light guide in the deep red near infrared light. Doctors take advantage of the transparency of skin and skull bone to check for infections in sinuses. Okay, so sunlight comes in, you have cerebral spinal fluid all throughout the brain, all throughout your spine, okay, and this helps transfer sunlight to where it needs to go. Because remember, 99.9% of your molecules are going to be water-based, and that is the ultimate Faraday cage and the ultimate transfer mechanism that we have. All right, the DC electric current part 3. Sunlight is the best form of energy. UV light is better still because it is shorter wavelengths and they induce more of a DC electric current. So with that, the sun, grounding, food, water, magnetism must all be present to maintain health or reverse disease. Your ANS, your autonomic nervous system reacts to any stressor. Okay, so at attuned to light, any stressor releases more ELF UV light. Okay, so when you release more ELF UV light, hormones are going to change, redox is going to change, your telomere length is going to change, and then when you are stressed, you want to make sure you are getting out in UV light more. Okay, because what we release, we need to put back. Okay, and that's any stressor. Okay, so any stressor is also going to raise cortisol, and if cortisol is raised at the wrong time, then that's going to be an issue. Okay, that's why doing cold thermogenesis at night when you're trying to relax and cool, get ready for bed is not a good idea. Okay, because everything is starting to lower, and then you're going to put yourself in a stressor. That's not a good idea. Okay, a workout is a stressor, which is why eating is a stress. Most processes get shut down when you eat. Digestion takes precedence to over most things, which is why eating when it's dark, working out when it's dark, right before bed, is not a good idea. Okay? So it's circadian nutrition, circadian fitness. Dark outside, kitchen is closed. Dark outside, gym is closed. Sun is out, kitchen's open. Sun is out, gym is open. And it's best to have your gym outside. Otherwise, change your lights. All right. And just a picture here. Summary of systematic effects of sunlight. This isn't all of them. You can't put this in one slide, but ultraviolet light is going to improve your electrocardiogram. Okay, you can also say that's basically your DC current. Decrease blood pressure, decrease resting heart rate, increase your cardiac output, decrease your blood cholesterol, increase your glycogen stores in the liver, decrease your blood sugar, increase energy, increase endurance, increase muscular strength. So, work out in the sun. Visual light striking your eye, your naked eye, no sunglasses, no contacts, no eyeglasses pulled down. Okay, that will also help with your reversing myopia. Controls melatonin production, especially when UVA light penetrates deep into the tissues and lowers CAMP. Not sure what that acronym's for. Then you got more ultraviolet light, increases body's resistance to infections, increase in lymphocytes and phagocytic index, and it was shown that basically the coronavirus is basically destroyed in that. Coronavirus is a flu or a cold. Oxygen carrying capacity of blood is increased. Okay, very important there. Increases adrenaline in tissues and tolerance to stress. Increases the sex steroid hormones. Increases your tans and increases resistance of skin infections. So increases your melanin production via POMC and alpha MSH, which is why it is very important. If you do wear, well, you shouldn't be wearing sunglasses because this is Circadian Biology Part 4. So if you are wearing it, that's a major issue. But sunglasses will greatly reduce your ability to make more melanin. And melanin is basically our superpower. It allows you to be in the sun longer and whatnot. So anybody who wears sunglasses will, especially if they're a Northern European descendant white person, they will not be able to tan as well. Obviously, you can get tan wearing sunglasses. Just take a look at a lifeguard who wears sunglasses. I mean, they will be pretty tan, but even when you are tan, that does not mean you are healthy, because I would say those lifeguards, they will have issues with vitamin D because the sun talks to the skin, and when the sunlight hits the skin, that's going to help raise, that's when you make the vitamin D. But if we're wearing sunglasses, then the suprachiasmatic nucleus cannot talk to the skin. You have issues with communication, and certain things go awry. Okay. Another meme here. Lack of UV light is one of the biggest health problems we face. The sun's frequency, or the sun's frequencies, change every nanosecond. Meanwhile, you sit at home, work under an artificial light that never changes and then stays on once the sun goes down. When we miss UV light or block it, our dopamine lowers, speeding up time, diseases, death, and pain. Okay? So do not block UV. Do not be afraid of it. It is our most important frequency for health. Another meme here. It has been proven without a shadow of a doubt that our cells release ELF, UV light, and infrared light. Two spectrums we cannot see. The sicker you are, the more you release, and again, the more stressed you are, the more you release. If you never put that light back in, you will never get your health back or your energy back, ever. Okay? So if you are experiencing a more stressful day, make sure you're trying to get more grounding, make sure you're trying to get more sunlight, and make sure you get more seafood so you can absorb, so you can catch those electrons and you can catch those photons. All right, magnetic water. H2O, water, is the perfect magnetic dipole. It is why it makes up 71% of the Earth's surface and 99.7 to 99.9% of the molecules inside of you. It holds the energy to transfer to us. If you have no energy, your mitochondria is dehydrated, your exclusion zone is smaller, and you are losing electrons. Okay, and remember, to find out if your mitochondria is dehydrated, when you do get your blood work, you want to get your BUN creatinine ratio done. So it will be two separate, it will be a BUN and a creatinine. So there'll be two numbers, and then you have to divide those numbers to get the ratio. Okay. If you've never done it before, it should be under, when you start, it should be at least under 15, but eventually you want to get it under 12. And the lower you can go, the better. All right. So light, water, magnetism is needed for life. This is why idiots like Elon Musk think we'll move to Mars. Mars equals light and water. It has no magnetic field, which equals no life. Okay. Another meme here. Life to exist needs light, water, magnetism. Mars equals light and water. When you live a life of a silly talking indoor zoo animal, you lose electrons and you have less magnetic sense. Less magnetic sense brings you closer to death. All right. Schumann magnetism. Most people know the Schumann resonance. Earth's heartbeat is at 7.83 hertz, which is the same as the alpha wave in your brain. If you put AirPods on your head, that will destroy your alpha wave and you'll never be able to achieve the alpha wave in your brain. But magnetic field frequencies shift throughout the year based on the sun's magnetic field and seasonality. Okay, so it'll be anywhere between 0 to 30 hertz. And it'll depend on your latitude as well. This field alters our DNA and RNA expression and is why we are biologically not the same in summer versus winter if you don't live at the tropics or the equator. The hydrogen bonds become altered, and changed is the bonding angles in the dipoles of water. Non-native EMF is a constant alteration of this, which is why you need to mitigate as much as you can the non-native EMF. I mean, obviously you can't do that unless you're living underground or out in the Amazon rainforest or someplace, or inside of or next to a volcano. And then why taller people die sooner is because their suprachiasmatic nucleus is up higher, away from the ground. Okay, so the ground is where, so being on the ground is where you're going to have the most connection with the magnetic field, with the Schumann resonance. But the higher you are up, the further away you are from it, and that's why taller people die sooner. Okay, calcium signaling, proper melatonin and proper melanopsin signaling is tied to proper calcium signaling, which is linked to proper light and dark cycles. Okay, which is why blue light destroys the dark cycle. Dopamine and prolactin levels are tied to carbs in season and as local as you can get them, which also ties to proper light and dark and also temperature cycles. If any of these cycles is off, you're going to get cell chaos. Cells won't be able to communicate, and you won't get the information, so you won't get the energy. And again, life is energy. Okay, another mean here. Calcium ion concentration in neurons inside of a cell, so intra, is 0.0001 mm, but that's not millimeters. I don't know what the term is, but so 0.0001 mm, and extra, so outside of the cell, is supposed to be 1 to 2 mm's. Brain cells are not meant to divide like your gut cells. Non-native EMF causes excitotoxicity in the brain, which leads to apoptosis, which is rare in the brain. Remember, apoptosis and autophagy are the two change programs that occur mostly when we're sleeping, but it will also happen when we're fasting, also happen when we're exercising. So it's basically cell suicide is what apoptosis is. Okay, your gut cells are meant to turn over every 24 to 48 hours, which is why if you eat something bad, your gut can get rid of it. Okay, but injecting things is not is completely different than eating and digesting. Okay, another mean here. So when you eat carbs year-round, the conditions of hypoxia, which is you can't breathe, or your cells can't breathe, less ATP and more protons to electrons stays the same, and your body adapts. The mitochondrial phase shifts to protons and away from electrons. Electrical potential, your redox goes down, and so does your ability to create magnetic fields due to the magnetic signals between oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin. Magnetism goes down, so does electric abilities, which is your DC electric current. Okay. And remember, when your mitochondria phase shifts away from electrons and more to protons, protons contain 1,852 times more mass than the electron. So this is when you get major diseases, things start getting inflamed, obesity, diabetes, okay, all the things you don't want. Okay, and then here's a study slide. Bright light exposure reduces Th-positive dopamine neurons. Implications of light pollution in Parkinson's disease epidemiology. So it's basically discussing blue light lowering your dopamine. So the study explores the effect of continuous exposure to bright light on neuromelanin formation and dopamine neuron survival in the substantia nigra. 21 days after birth, Sprague-Dawley albino rats were divided into two groups, or divided into groups, and raised under different conditions of light exposure. At the end of the irradiation period, rats were sacrificed and assayed for neuromelanin formation and number of tyrosine hydroxylase, which is Th-positive neurons in the substantia nigra of the brain. The rats exposed to bright light for 20 days or 90 days showed a relatively greater number of neuromelanin-positive neurons. Surprisingly, Th-positive neurons decreased progressively in the substantia nigra, reaching a significant 29% reduction after 90 days of continuous bright light exposure. The decrease was paralleled by a diminution of dopamine and its metabolite in the striatum. Remarkably, in preliminary analysis that accounted for population density, the age and race-adjusted Parkinson's disease prevalence significantly correlated with average cytolite observed sky light pollution. Okay, so obviously neuromelanin is part of the melanin inside of you. Remember, you've got melanin outside and inside. So blue light destroys melanin, also destroys your ability to make it when you are in the sun. Okay, which is why you want to change the lights, and if you are inside, you want to cover yourself as much as you can, and especially your eyes. Okay, and one of Dr. Cruz's slides, UVA and IRA regenerates all photoreceptors. Okay, melatonin produced by photoreceptors and other retinal cell types control retinal regeneration cycles independently from the pineal gland activity, but dependent from darkness. Okay. All right. Power lines is what we're going to talk about next, but I will have to record this on another day. So I will be back to talk about that. And that is it for Improvement Warrior Podcast episode number 75, going over half of the Light, Water, Magnetism, Circadian Biology Premium Webinar Part 4. So if you do want to hear the rest of that, you can become a Patreon member at improvementwarriorfitness.com/Patreon or join Improvement Warrior University Premium at improvementwarriorfitness.com/IWU. But otherwise, again, share this podcast out with anybody that you feel needs to hear it. I feel everybody should hear it at least once or twice or 3 or 4 or 8 times until it gets into their head, because nobody's following, most people are not following circadian biology principles. They are following Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or other corporations and selling their souls and selling their biology and selling their circadian clocks and selling all of their stuff, all of their dopamine. So they have become addicted and they just need more and more. So they're just being set up for those smart cities, which, if you're listening to this podcast, you know is just another word for dumb city. Dumb for your health and dumb for your freedom. And that's what matters. Otherwise, enough of me. I will see you on the next podcast or somewhere else, blog, video, YouTube, all that stuff. And I'll check you later. Till then, have a great day. Stay strong. Stay positive. Be the Improvement Warrior.
If you would like to support this podcast, then please visit me on Patreon to become a patron of Improvement Warrior Podcast. The podcast may be free for you, but it definitely is not free for me. So even if it's just $1 pledge or $3 or $50, I would greatly appreciate it. Just search on Patreon for Improvement Warrior or go to patreon.com/Improvement Warrior. It will also be listed in the show notes along with other ways to support the show via our sponsors or either via PayPal or Anchor support. We are always looking for ratings for the podcast. It helps my podcast be found by others looking to improve their life and health, as well as it helps us get ranked higher. So please help us out so that I may continue bringing this life-changing podcast to you and others around the world. Just go to the leave a review section of your favorite podcast listening app and let us know what you think. 5 stars is preferred, but please be honest. Thank you in advance.